In this episode, we talk about the significance of everyone over the age of 70 coming under the ambit of Ayushman Bharat. We also talk about the central government changing the name of Port Blair to Sri Vijayapuram and the politics behind the move. But first, we talk about the reason why Arvind Kejriwal chose to resign as the Delhi Chief Minister. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Nearly 6 months after he was arrested by the ED and later by the CBI in the Delhi excise policy case, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal walked out of jail on Friday.
So on Friday, the Supreme Court granted bail to Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal.
That's Indian Express's Mallika Joshi, who writes on Delhi politics for the paper.
This is the bail in the CBI case in the Delhi excise policy matter. He had earlier been granted interim bail by the Supreme Court in ED's case in the same matter. So with the Supreme Court's relief, he walked out on Friday evening. So while granting him bail, the court noted that the trial in the case had still not started. And considering the number of witnesses there were in the case, the completion of trial was still a long ways away. So that is essentially the reason that he was granted bail alongside others like Manish Sisodia earlier and Vijay Nair after that.
But what's important to note is that Kejriwal's bail came with certain conditions. Mallika says that these conditions were the ones that were set by the Supreme Court when he was granted bail in the ED case earlier.
The conditions remain the same, even though the two judges in the court on Friday had differing opinions on whether the conditions should remain the same or not. That said, the conditions essentially were that he would not go to the Delhi Secretariat or his office. The Chief Minister's office is actually inside the Secretariat. The second bail condition was that he would not sign any files that do not require the approval or the clearance of the Delhi LG. So these were the two bail conditions. After this, there was a lot of speculation on whether he could continue to function as a chief minister unfettered. So while the restrictions clearly state that there are some things that he can't do, they weren't that big of a hurdle effectively because the chief minister can, call meetings in his house. That has been happening for the past several years. He's not bound to hold meetings inside his office or the secretariat.
And she says even the second bail condition regarding signing files is not that much of a concern for Kejriwal.
Because in Delhi's scheme of things, basically, how Delhi functions, it's a UT but has special powers. The LG is the official administrator of this city-state. So that means that all files that are important there are big decisions, and in some cases even smaller decisions have to mandatorily go to the LG for clearance or approval. So the second condition may seem like it's a very stringent one, but when you put it into context of how Delhi functions, it doesn't really create that much of a problem for the chief minister signing files.
So he gets bail on Friday, he walks out, and then on Sunday he makes an announcement that surprises almost everyone.
Yeah, it was more like shockwaves across the entire capital, and not just, for local politics, but also for national politics. He announced that he would resign in 2 days. Bear in mind that while he was in jail, the opposition BJP, in fact, even the Delhi Congress here, several times raised the issue, said he has no moral right to continue as the chief minister. They demanded his resignation repeatedly. But it was only after that he came out of jail that he chose to finally say that he would not continue as the chief minister anymore.
दोस्तों, 2 दिन के बाद, आज से 2 दिन के बाद मैं सीएम की कुर्सी से इस्तीफा देने जा रहा हूं। और मैं तब तक सीएम की कुर्सी पे नहीं बैठूंगा जब तक जनता अपना फैसला ना सुना दे।
And Mallika, what was the reason he cited for doing this, for resigning from his post?
So the reason that he cited on Sunday is that he wants to go to the court of the people to, ask them whether they trust him, whether they believe he is honest, or do they think that he is corrupt, as has been alleged by the investigating agencies. He also said that he wanted the courts to actually exonerate him. But when he spoke to lawyers, they said that the case could take anywhere from 5, 10 to 20 years. And that's when he decided that he would return to the court of the people, as he said, to seek their mandate again. And only then, he said, would he sit on the chief minister's seat if the people of Delhi voted him back to power.
अगर आपको लगता है केजरीवाल ईमानदार है, जम के वोट दे देना मेरे पक्ष में, चुनाव के बाद सीएम की कुर्सी पे जाके बैठूंगा. और जब तक आपका फैसला नहीं आएगा, तब तक मैं जिम्मेदारी नहीं संभालूंगा. और मैं जब तक चुनाव नहीं होते, मैंने जैसे बताया 2 दिन के बाद मैं अपना इस्तीफा दूंगा. जब तक चुनाव नहीं होते, तब तक मेरी जगह आम आदमी पार्टी से कोई और मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा. अगले 2-3 दिन के अंदर.
And how did his party react to this? Did everyone know that he was going to do this?
So the first time our sources tell us this was discussed is the day he was released, which is Friday. And then more serious discussions started taking place on Saturday. And there were several meetings. There was a big meeting with many leaders. There were one-on-one meetings where all of this was discussed. And Sunday is when he announced. But a lot of people, a lot of MLAs actually had no idea that this was going to happen. They thought that they were coming there just for his address to them on what they're supposed to do, because Haryana elections are right around the corner and Delhi elections would have been held around 5 months down the line. So that is what they were thinking about and hoping for when they had come to the party headquarters on Sunday.
And Mallika, like you said, this is something that the BJP had been demanding ever since Kejriwal first got arrested. But he didn't do it. He spent 6 months in jail, but he didn't resign. So why now?
So we spoke to a few leaders in the party to try and understand what were the discussions, what went on behind the scenes. While he said it in his speech also, he spoke about how this is a formula that the BJP has, sort of crafted, where they file false cases, those are his words, against chief ministers of other states. And then by doing that, they force them to resign and then maybe break the party or take over the governance in that particular state.
इन्होंने फॉर्मूला बना रखा है. आप देख रहे हो किस तरह से एमएलए तोड़ दो, एमएलए खरीद लो, ईडी भेज के डरा दो, सीबीआई भेज के डरा दो, फर्जी केस कर दो, जेल में डाल दो, पार्टी तोड़ दो. महाराष्ट्र में कैसे उन्होंने 2-2 राष्ट्रीय पार्टियां तोड़ दी. पार्टी तोड़ दो, सरकारें गिरा दो और अपनी सरकार बना लो. इनको यह लग रहा था केजरीवाल को जेल भेज देंगे तो दिल्ली में इनकी पार्टी टूट जाएगी, दिल्ली में बीजेपी की सरकार बना लेंगे.
He said that his idea was to, break this formula. And he also gave a message to the chief ministers and other opposition chief ministers, essentially, in other parts of the country, that if this happens to you, if you are charged in a false case and are jailed, do not resign. I have shown that you can run the government from jail. The timing of this arrest, what leaders said, was also because if he resigns, he wanted it to be on his own terms. He did not want it to be dictated by BJP or by anyone else. It was more like, telling the BJP that, you do not control what I do and how and when I do it. So while he resigned, that is what the party wanted. It was not at a time of their choosing or even something that they had anticipated at all. The BJP was taken completely by surprise by this.
And Mallika, what does this move by Kejriwal, what does it do to tackle the BJP's narrative and rhetoric against him and the Aam Aadmi Party?
So, now it's also AAP throwing the ball in BJP's court. It's almost asks BJP to tell them what do they do now. For Aam Aadmi Party, I was speaking to a senior leader and he said that our politics is based on, honesty. That was the first pitch for us then when we came into power. And when your honesty is questioned in this manner, where your chief minister, your former deputy chief minister are jailed and there are these serious allegations against them, it's more like taking a moral high ground where they want to say that we can be in power, we can sit and continue to be a chief minister and be reinducted as a deputy chief minister, but we chose to go to the people.
And Mallika, you mentioned the Haryana elections and the Delhi elections. What are the things that the party wants to prioritize right now, and how does this move affect those decisions, if at all?
So, for the party, Delhi will always be their first priority. It is the state that the party was born. It is the state where they first, sort of displayed what their ideology, so to speak, they call it their ideology, Kaam Ki Rajniti, was. They spoke about schools, giving a lot more funding to education, to health. This is where their first Mohalla clinic started. This is where their infrastructure upgrade in government schools started. So that is going to be their first priority. It's like a workshop of, what can be done in other states. For example, the free electricity promise, which is now also in place in Punjab. A lot of experiments, so to speak, that they did in Delhi are now being replicated in Punjab and are functional. So Delhi will always be a big priority for them. In the short term, of course, Haryana and the campaign over there is important. The party has announced 89 candidates out in the 90 seats that are in the assembly. They have it tough in Haryana though. Not only because they've never really won an assembly seat from there before, but also because a lot of their party leadership was in jail till just a couple of months ago. So while there have been people who've been, making these speeches that we are standing strong and there's nothing wrong with the organization, of course, a lot of people got demoralized. So in that context, Haryana is not at all, and let alone easy. It's not even something where they are perhaps going to win some seats. It's a very, very tight contest for them and a very short duration where they can actually now put in everything that they have. Delhi is the longer. Arvind Kejriwal said on Sunday that we demand early elections. We demand elections alongside Maharashtra. So that is where most of their energies are going to go right now.
And next we talk about Ayushman Bharat. Last week, the Union Cabinet expanded the government's flagship health insurance scheme to everyone above the age of 70, regardless of their income level. This move, which was first mentioned in the BJP's 2024 Lok Sabha election manifesto, is expected to bring about significant changes to public healthcare and the lives of the elderly in the country. To talk about the significance of this move, Indian Express's Anona Dutt joins us. Anona, tell us, what does this move allow people above the age of 70 to do? How does it help them?
So essentially, anybody over the age of 70, doesn't matter how much they earn, doesn't matter what their economic status is, they will get covered by the Ayushman Bharat scheme, and they will have equivalent scheme to what was available so far to the poorest 40%. So that's like 5 lakh cover for a year. And since it is the government scheme, the best part is there is no waiting period. There is no exclusion. There is no, a period for which you have to wait to get cover for pre-existing conditions. None of that is there.
This is basically what happens when you get private health insurance.
Yes. So with people who will get the Ayushman Bharat coverage, they will get covered for all pre-existing conditions from day one. The day their eKYC gets done, they will have complete cover, unlike private insurances in which you would typically see at least 2 to 3 years waiting period for any pre-existing diseases, where you would not get covered for certain conditions. There would be certain things that would be included in exclusions. None of that happens with the Ayushman Bharat scheme.
And also talk about the hospitals that people under this scheme can go to avail these benefits.
So for people who have coverage under Ayushman Bharat, they can check the website to see whichever is the nearest hospital. So it provides you with a map, so you can put in your city, your state, and it will tell you which are the nearest hospitals that are empaneled with the government, and you can avail the facilities in any one of those. And the best thing is, it's not just government hospitals, it's also the renowned private hospitals which have been empaneled in this scheme. So you can avail surgeries at a private hospital completely free of cost.
Anona, how significant is this move considering how large India's older population is?
So first of all, Ayushman Bharat in itself was the world's biggest insurance scheme. So covering just the poor 40% of the country was a huge undertaking. There were 55 crore individuals who were covered under Ayushman Bharat so far. And the coverage was also extended to vulnerable groups such as the transgender persons. It was extended to ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers who generally do not earn a lot. But with this current extension of the scheme, the 70-year and above cohort, this would be the first to get a complete universal coverage regardless of their income. And this is very essential because, one, after 70, most insurance companies would not give you cover. Doesn't matter whether you have been paying your premium since you were 30 years old. A lot of them refuse coverage after, say, 60 years of age. 60 to 65 is what most insurance companies would offer you. So you do not have any kind of health cover unless you've been a government employee and have, say, CGHS cover or something like that. Usually the privately purchased insurance would not give you coverage. Then a lot of the elderly have chronic illnesses. So they would have, say, diabetes, hypertension, which leads to heart attacks, strokes. They have, problems with chronic kidney disease or chronic liver disease. All of this, it's not, just get admitted right now and deal with it. A lot of this gets refused under insurance coverage because they have these illnesses already and they do not get cover for this, even if they somehow manage to get some insurance policy. All of this will not happen with Ayushman Bharat. That is one of the biggest benefits of the scheme.
Right, this is the section of the population that perhaps requires healthcare the most. And like you said, elderly have chronic diseases, non-communicable diseases. They're also more prone to infectious diseases. And even under the current Ayushman Bharat scheme, the government is spending the most amount of money on treatments that are mainly required for the elderly population. So considering this and the sheer number of older people in the country, how much is this going to cost the government?
So the government at present, they will get the allocation of 3437 crores. And from what I've heard from officials, this should cover the initial cost for 6 months of this financial year and the entire financial year 2025. This is for 1.5 years. And this is just the central contribution. So, of course, the states would have to match another 40% to that. That is the general cost sharing for Ayushman Bharat scheme, where the center pays 60% of the bill and the states have to pay 40%, barring some northeastern and hilly states where the center pays 90% of the total expenditure on the scheme. So that is what the initial costing is. But of course, if there are more people who register, if there is more need, we've been told that the budget will be increased accordingly.
And Anona, tell us why the government chose to make this move, because this is a big move in the healthcare sector.
It is a big move. So the people above the age of 70 were chosen because they are the most vulnerable. Like I said, they do not get any health cover, and yet they are the ones who usually have the chronic conditions and do get sick more often than the normal population. So if you see just the Ayushman Bharat data of people who are over the age of 70 who are already covered because they are a part of the, a poorer 40%, if you say their data, the admission rate in the people 70 years and above is about, say, 7% or so, which is double of what you would see in the younger population of about, say, 3% or maximum 4%. So clearly, the older people do need more admissions, hospital admissions for different conditions. They are the ones who do not have any health cover. They are also increasing in number. So if you just see our population dynamic, our population is aging, and it is estimated that by 2050, we will have 319 million people over the age of 60 years. That is almost triple of what we saw in the 2011 census. That's a significant population. So we do need some sort of health security for them. And the other thing that the government did consider was the gender dynamics. So if you see among the elderly, a high proportion of them are women and a lot of them are widowed women. So that factor also played into, giving that sort of social security. So Niti Aayog survey actually showed that 58% of the elderly population was women and 54% of this population was widowed. So these are the people who do not have the family support as well. And that was also one of the, considerations while expanding the scheme to the elderly.
Okay, so now that you have everyone over 70 under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, tell us how much coverage they're going to get.
So anybody who is not part of the scheme right now, the family will get a 5 lakh coverage. So for example, if in a family there are 2 people over the age of 70 years, they will both share the 5 lakh coverage. But if there is, say, one person over the age of 70 years, then they get the entire 5 lakh amount. So per family, they will get 5 lakh coverage. And for people who are already under the scheme because they are the poorest 40%, they will get a top-up cover of another 5 lakh. So 5 lakh is for the family, entire family. And then an additional 5 lakh, which will be meant only for the elderly people in the family. That is the current coverage of the scheme.
And talk about what do people who are over 70, tell us what do they need to do to get these benefits?
So first of all, you have to be 70 years as per your Aadhaar. The enrollment hasn't begun yet, but we were told that it would start within this week. And once that happens, of course, the government will announce that, it's now open for the elderly. Once you turn 70 as per the date that you have on your Aadhaar card, all you need to do is download the Ayushman app on your phone and do your Aadhaar eKYC to register yourself and get the Ayushman card, the e-card on the app. The other thing that you can do is go to any government health facility around you. They usually have an Ayushman counter where you can just, give your Aadhaar number and get registered.
And in the end, we talk about the politics behind changing the names of states and cities. On Friday, the central government renamed the capital of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, changing it from Port Blair to Sri Vijayapuram. Announcing the decision on X, Union Home Minister Amit Shah said the change was part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision to eliminate all symbols of slavery in the country. The post also highlighted the city's role in India's freedom struggle. Shah noted that V.D. Savarkar had spent years in the cellular jail in the Andamans and that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had hoisted the tricolour on the island. Now, when we spoke to Indian Express's Vikas Pathak, he told us that name changes under the NDA or BJP-ruled governments have typically fallen into 2 categories.
One is that Muslim-sounding names have sometimes been changed. Historical names like Aurangzeb Road in Delhi, which was renamed Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Marg. Muslim-sounding like Allahabad was changed to Prayagraj. So that is one. And the other, of course, which is colonial sounding, like Port Blair being renamed. So that is the pattern that one sees.
But it's not just the BJP. Name changes have taken place under other governments as well. For example, Bombay was renamed Mumbai, Madras became Chennai, and Calcutta was changed to Kolkata.
So the changes that were done to, say, Bombay, Madras and Calcutta were more with this regional linguistic sentiment that the name has to be a name that is there in the local language or a name of a place in the local language. So Calcutta was a more anglicized version when actually Calcutta, the city, was built combining 3 villages. So one of those villages was called Kolkata. Similarly, it's a very sentimental thing in Maharashtra that it should be called Mumbai and not Bombay. Similar thing is there, say, in the case of Chennai. Then again, we saw Bangalore becoming Bengaluru, right? So at one level, there have been regional linguistic sentiments that think that a name should sound as a native name, so to say, and not something else. So there it is a clearly, regional cultural pitch that is used. That apart, we've also seen ideological name changes. So when Mayawati was in government, she named quite a few cities, renamed them on either Buddhist traditions or on the Dalit Bahujan movement of the last 100 years. Like, say, Gautam Buddha Nagar, Mahamaya Nagar. So there was a very clear Ambedkarite kind of a political pitch there, where Buddhism was taken as a more egalitarian tradition, and therefore Mayawati as CM renamed many cities. Later, most of these names were changed back to the original when Samajwadi Party came to power.
But Vikas says that when it comes to the BJP, its pitch for decolonization presumes that the Congress party stands for colonization.
That is the subterranean message to be sent out. And one sees that talk about the freedom struggle is much more frequent within the BJP. So celebrating Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, that celebration in itself has a hidden political message. It is aimed at sending out the message that somehow Jawaharlal Nehru took all the advantage of the freedom struggle's legacy and his family later, right? So when they talk about, say, Sardar Patel, when they talk about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the tacit message is that injustice has been done to them. So the BJP apparently is, giving them their due.
And he says by making a pitch towards freedom struggle, the BJP is trying to enter the discourse surrounding it.
Let's not forget that the main rival of the BJP is the Congress, and the Congress is a successor of the Indian National Congress, which was the main vehicle of the freedom struggle. So the Congress historically has a greater claim to the freedom struggle, because let's not forget that be it Mahatma Gandhi, be it Jawaharlal Nehru, be it Sardar Patel, Lokmanya Tilak, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, they all were congressmen at some point of time or the other. Many of them stayed congressmen all through their lives. So when the BJP makes these pitches, the BJP somehow tries to enter the discourse of the freedom struggle. For that, Savarkar also becomes a very important figure for them, because Savarkar for a period of time in his life was a freedom fighter and was also a Hindutva ideologue. So in the case of the BJP, it's also about making that claim so that the Congress does not get the advantage of the freedom struggle. And somehow it also wants to show that this Congress is no longer that Congress, right? So the BJP's pitch often is that Nehru's Congress is different from that, platform called the Indian National Congress, in which all took part.
You were listening to Three Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.